a lot of people, myself included, are concerned about the way the world is moving, the way the world is changing. One of the things that we see in the United States and all over the world for that matter is this cultural war where values are being pushed onto us that we don't want, we don't like. And when you look at countries that have gone through this, like the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia in the early 1900s, like Mao's Great Leap Forward in China in the mid 1900s, in the 40s and the 50s, they go through these cultural wars. And it's my opinion that the governments stoke these cultural wars to get us all fighting each other so they can have their way with us. But it's important to understand that the governments and good old Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum don't have the power over us. They only have the power of us because we let them have the power of us. Klaus Schwab wants to push something called a public-private partnership. We can see this where they want to use the governments and the businesses together to change the world. But as I like to say, you and I have the power, not the corporations, because the corporations are owned by shareholders, which are you and I. Now, BlackRock is the biggest shareholder, but of course, whose money does BlackRock have? That would be we the people. They have your pension fund, your 401k. So they're making decisions with your money. But it's up to entrepreneurs to step up and provide alternatives. Like Vivek Ramaswamy, who's now running for president, started Strive Asset Management to compete against BlackRock to give us an option to vote with our money. So we need entrepreneurs to step up and provide the alternative. We need entrepreneurs to step up and create companies that compete with these companies we don't like. And it's more important even for us as consumers to now support those companies that are giving us those options. You know, one good example is what's been all over the news headlines this week is what happened with Bud Light. So Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, it's been around in the United States. It kind of runs on this, seems like this kind of a pro-American campaign. They got the Clydesdales out there on the street. But they really went in a different direction this week by running an entire campaign with Dylan Mulvaney, who is a biological male that's running around as a female, a drag queen. And Budweiser decided to fully embrace that, put his face all over the cans, start running all this advertisement with that. And a lot of people don't like it. Now, as a brand, you're trying to appeal to customers, and apparently the head of marketing decided that they wanted to be more inclusive. And they thought that they should reach across the aisle, and apparently using a drag queen and putting them all over cans was going to be the way they would be able to do that. The problem is they weren't really prepared for the backlash that happened. We saw Kid Rock, made a video on Instagram with a gun, shooting a whole bunch of Bud Light. We've seen people dumping out, pouring Bud Light everywhere. And we've seen Bud Light has lost over $4 billion since making that move. Now, the thing that's important to hear is not so much what's happening with Bud Light or even specifically into the trans movement or whatever. The point here is that us as consumers need to vote with our money. So if you're happy with that move, if you like Bud Light using a drag queen and putting their face all over cans, then you should certainly go buy Bud Light and vote with your money over there. However, if you don't like that, if you don't think that's appropriate, then you should not be giving your money to Bud Light. And more importantly, what we need entrepreneurs to step up and create the counter to that. So we see that craft beer is massive in the United States, for example. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have a beer company, what you might want to do is now promote your beer company as the counter to that, as a different set of values. Okay, if Bud Light wants to be the brand for trans, trans and drag queens, okay, fine, let them be that. And then let's start another beer company that's for traditional values. We need entrepreneurs to step up and fill that void. Then us as consumers need to step up and vote with our money. Unfortunately, we've had this, I don't know, I haven't done enough research into this, and I don't know if we'll ever really know. Apparently, the top brass at Bud Light have come out and sort of disavowed this, saying, "Hey, we didn't make these decisions. We were never apprised of this. We didn't know that they were going to hire this trans person to put them on the cans. This was made at this low-level decision." So they're trying to sort of like distance themselves from this. Of course, it doesn't help that they lost $4 billion, so they're trying to anything they can to do damage control. But I think it's important to understand, like I said, if this is where they want to put their money, if this is where they want to align their values, then they have to choose to do that. But the problem is, by trying to be more inclusive with a small group of people, they've excluded a larger group of people. Now, what I don't know, but it appears that it could be maybe potentially some of the problems that they've had is that these big corporations are being squeezed by the government. Remember, public-private partnerships. So you have the governments and the businesses working together. So they're pushing these ESG and DEI narratives on them, meaning that they're, in order to be a good company in good standing with the government, in order to get financing from the bank, in order to get stocks to be purchased and recommended by Wall Street, then you have to meet these DEI and these ESG goals. So it might be that these big companies maybe don't want to do this. It could be. I don't know. It could be that they don't want to do this, but they're almost really being forced to do this, because if they don't do it, then they'll get shunned. They could potentially lose their tax breaks. They could potentially be, targeted by the government. They could potentially be losing their credit lines, their bank accounts, their funding, all those types of things if they don't do these things because of these DEI and ESG mandates that are put in. Now, I'm not trying to run cover for Bud Light. It doesn't matter to me. If they've caved because of those, then they have to deal with the consequences of that. And again, the economic voting, the capitalist system will correct this. Okay, so fine. Bud Light, potentially, maybe they were pressured by these DEI and ESG narratives to do this. Then they were hoping that by using these narratives or by hitting these agenda goals, that they would continue to be in good graces with the government and Wall Street. But what they forgot was it was the consumers that drive the market. So what should happen in a free market? Great, you did that. You caved to pressure because of whatever reason. You made those decisions. Now you're forced to deal with that. Now let's see entrepreneurs rise up, provide the counter to that. Let's vote them out. Let's see these other companies get the money. Let's see these other countries rise up and then see the negative effects over there. This is what we've seen. If you guys haven't checked out, I recommend it. Check out Jeremy's Razors. Just go to their website, read their story. That's exactly what they did. Ben Shapiro was sponsored by a company called Harry's Razors that was pushing values they didn't like. So they started a new company called Jeremy's Razors, which is the counter to that. They now launched another one to counter Hershey's chocolate bars. You all know Hershey's chocolate bars. Hershey's chocolate bars also went woke and started pushing, for these trans issues. And so Jeremy's Razors, an entrepreneur, stepped up to create a counter to that. So it's worth checking out. They have some really clever ads on YouTube. Just Google that or go on YouTube for Jeremy's Razors or just search, Jeremy's chocolate bars. And you'll see those. But this is what we need. And so this is my challenge to you. If you're an entrepreneur, it's time for you to step up. It's time for you to create the counter business to counter the narrative that you don't like. And if you're a consumer, my challenge to you is to step up and support these businesses that are giving you a chance to vote with your money. I think you all know by now your vote at the booth doesn't mean as much as it used to. But your economic vote has even more power. So if you're an entrepreneur, step up and create these businesses. If you're a consumer, step up and support these businesses